I had scratched my head for a long time, wondering if I could build a guitar entirely out of sheet metal. I finally decided to try an experiment, building a test neck. When you play a guitar, the neck is your office. If you don't have a good neck, you don't have a good guitar. The neck on my old hummingbird is about the finest I've ever played. I measured it up carefully with a goal of duplicating the dimensions as closely as possible. The curved component is made of 20 gauge cold rolled steel sheet. After cutting it to size, I lapped it flat on a granite surface plate. The transition between the neck and the headstock looked pretty tricky, so I figured I'd build that as well, just as an experiment. I kept the design simple to make the folding of the steel easier. Using silver solder to join the components made for a neat joint and kept the heat down to a manageable range. Sheet metal, particularly if it's flat, tends to warp and buckle under extreme heat. My trial neck turned out almost exactly the desired shape and size. So I searched my stock to find material from which to build a test body. A major concern was whether the thin 22 gauge steel body would have sufficient strength to deal with the forces of 6 strings under tension. It seemed to hold up okay, so I cut some holes in it, comparative measurements, and showed virtually no deflection. Good news, eh? You know, this looks feasible. I think we've got the green light here to go ahead with the real project. There was some twisting and warping in the test neck, so I knew I'd have to improve my welding technique. Plus, the real neck is about twice as long as the test version. I used a block of aluminum as a heat sink during welding and wound up with a neck straight and true within about 2/1000ths of an inch. My test headstock had worked out pretty good, so I more or less retraced my footsteps for this part. However, I added support with steel tubing to prevent bowing when I tightened the tuners. All in all, this is looking encouraging. Meanwhile, a fingerboard of Indian rosewood and the fret wire I had ordered from California arrived in good condition. The next step was to build a gate for the strings, since I had decided to use a 0 fret on the fingerboard. The structural part of the neck was now complete and met with my satisfaction. Time to start thinking about the body. I found a great front-on photo of a Gretsch country gentleman on the web. I scaled down the profile from a width of 18 inches to 16 inches, so my guitar would fit into a generic guitar case. This also resulted in 2 more free frets on the fingerboard. Good thing, because I'm always running out of room up there. Arching the top and back panels on my homemade English wheel had introduced some serious stress in the steel. I kept the whole affair flat during construction by clamping it to a slab of 3/4 inch plywood. Of necessity, the neck was welded to the body before the back panel was attached. The angle between the neck and the body was critical to appropriate string clearances later. With the main structure complete and looking competent, it was time to make some markers and press in the fret wire, and then to trim the fingerboard to width. At this point I purchased the pickup, a Gibson Classic 57, so I could cut a hole in the top that would fit. I sure wonder how a magnetic pickup will work surrounded by all that steel. The fingerboard was epoxied to the necks, clamped to my surface plate to keep everything straight and square. Then the time had come to build a bridge, string it up, adjust for accurate intonation, and finally see what it sounds like.